Well, a warm welcome to you all. Welcome to Around the Bonfire. My name is Logan. Today I am joined with co-hosts Adam and Andy, and we will be discussing the question of what is the moral obligation to know what is going on in the world around you? How much should you take in, and how much should you keep out of your mind to stay sane? Enjoy.
Ooh, Logan, do you want to revisit what is the moral obligation of knowing what's going on in the world?
Sure.
First, could you remind me of the conversation that we had? Because to be completely honest, I don't remember that at all.
I don't remember the context. I remember seeing you that day, but I don't remember the context of that conversation.
Was that the day we bought guitar strings?
Yeah, and we were I think we ended up talking about certain movements, and then talking about arguing them, and like eventually it gets back to what do you believe. But yeah, eventually we were asking like what's the moral obligation of knowing what's going on in the world? Like, how much should you know, and how much should you not know? Like, because there's so much going on, and if you just are constantly tuned in to everything going on,
it's like counterproductive.
Yeah, like it can really weigh on your conscience, or it can, I feel like, detract from your quality of life to just be so tuned in and not focusing enough on your own life. But then how much should you kind of tune out? Like, should you just be a hermit, or like should you just be completely clueless as to what's going on and just, producing, like, doing your best at submitting to the world what you have to offer? Or should you know some of what's going on and maybe try to help in some way? But there's, obviously a lot of situations where it's very difficult for you to help.
Right.
So that's kind of like this context of that.
That kind of bleeds into the question of asking, is there any value in worrying about something else or worrying about other people when you personally can't do anything about it or can affect it in any way?
Yeah.
What would your guys' answer to that be? Is there any value to worrying about other people or something else when you personally can't help or affect that situation in any way?
No.
Yeah, I feel like worry is not a helpful thing. And if you cannot do something about it, then yeah, eliminating worry would be best. Because otherwise you're going to have the other person suffering and you as well.
Right.
And what's it called? Is it called utilitarian? When you want to, like, the best form of life is where most people are happy or something? Like in philosophy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know the concept. I don't know the name of it.
Oh, okay.
But I think that's right.
Like, the trolley problem, they would say, like, the one where at least people die is the best situation.
Yeah, that is utilitarianism. That's like the... Yeah. So, like, the actions that maximize happiness and well-being is the right thing to do. Or, like, the happiness and well-being of all affected individuals.
Yeah, so I would say from that perspective, the answer would be to not worry, because then there will be less suffering less net suffering.
Oh, that's a good philosophical approach to that question. Andy, why was your answer no? And I agree with both of you. I think I would say no. There's no point in worrying about things that you can't help or can't affect in any way. But Andy, why did you say no so quickly?
Well, so quickly, I think is a different answer, but I'll just respond with, there's no sense crying over spilt milk.
Ooh. So when something happens, it's done. It happens. So don't cry about it, kind of.
Yeah, if you know, because it sounds like I know for sure that I mean, worrying about it is not going to change the outcome, then that's going to put my mind at peace or at rest, and I'll just not have to worry about it. Like, I think it's kind of unfair that you've given me that much certainty, but since you have, I'll take it.
And then how come you said, like, it's a different answer for how come you said no? That question?
Yeah, so I guess that kind of question is, why are you so quick to making decisions? I like to try to make my decisions quickly, still be informed, but I don't like to spend time thinking about stuff. I'd rather be spending time doing stuff, like executing. And that's just the kind of person I am, so...
Yeah. Have the answers in your back pocket.
Sure. I don't like to think about... I don't really like to do too much planning. And I would say that kind of counts as planning. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Is that true in your programming life too?
To a certain extent. I'm more... Yeah, okay, I'll say that's true. I still do some amount of planning, but my kind of go-to strategy is like get something working, and then you can construct a plan around that, or you like kind of start seeing the plan form as you're making progress. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A lot of times you don't know what the plan is until you start seeing things and realizing things, materializing things. So that's kind of what works for me. I'm sure some other people could disagree with that, but that's what I do. That's how I do what I do.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense though. Don't spend too much time thinking, but rather doing. I think that's a really important balance to find in everybody's life.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get things right the first time, every time, then I think you're going to want to plan.
Yeah.
Like really think about stuff. But for me, I don't care too much about getting things right the first time. I just want to see results.
Oh, okay. And the results, at least in programming, motivate you?
Yeah. You could go back and refactor stuff. I would say like all ways you can go back and refactor stuff. It takes time, but you can do it. Like I think some people are like, oh, you got to get it right first time, or else you're not building the right foundation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't work on huge projects, so maybe that's not always true.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, I do feel like in life, like sometimes you can spend too much time just thinking about what to do and not doing it, and then you'll just be kind of almost crippled by that in your life. And that's more just
paralyzed.
not kind of zooming out of programming. But I feel like that is kind of a delicate balance to find in, like, where am I going to go in life? Because, it's just, I wonder if I've done that too much at times.
That's exactly what my problem was, of like, not really being able to find a major and not kind of knowing what I wanted to do. I was spending a lot of time like thinking about what the right decision and just like kind of pondering all my different options and what was possible for me to do and trying to pick which one I thought was the best fit for me. When in reality, it took a couple important people in my life to tell me like that's something that you can move in a direction towards later, but just pick one thing and start with it and move from there just to have some motion moving forward instead of just stuck thinking and like dreaming, I guess. Because I think I am a dreamer. There's a lot of times where I like to think of ideas and what's possible and how things could have been, and I do too much thinking, I would say. A lot of my life occurs inside my head just because how much I enjoy thinking and analyzing things and just processing my thoughts. But the downside of that is, even though I'll have great ideas, the downside is I spend so much time thinking about those ideas and not implicating them. So that's one area of my life I'm trying to get better at, is committing to doing things and just starting and just having faith that the rest is going to come later as I go through life, or just go through the motions of committing to something. And that's kind of where I am in life right now with pursuing my teacher's credential. I don't really know if being a teacher is the best fit for me, but I do know that it is a fit, like it's one possible fit. And I have experience in education now after doing City of AmeriCorps and coaching volleyball and working with students in other ways through clubs and college and et cetera, et cetera. But because I have more experience in those realms, I decided this is probably the best place for me to start. And so I'm going to stop thinking about like pros and cons of why this would be a good fit for me. Just kind of toss that out the window and just start it and kind of be all in and just have faith that this is going to lead to something greater somewhere down the line later in life.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What's stopping you?
Well, now nothing, because I'm...
All right, there you go.
I've started.
Your teacher's credential?
Well, no, but I've started on the path to getting my teacher's credential. Like, I had to take the CSETs and actually talk to a representative from Cal Poly today. She's a credential analyst and works in the School of Education at Cal Poly, so I had a Zoom meeting with her about taking a prerequisite class that I need to do, which I'm not really looking forward to, but whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess I forgot you're doing those tests, so that counts. Yeah.
Those have to happen first, and then the credential program starts in the summer, in June like 12th or something, 2021. So I got some time.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Proud of you, Adam.
Thanks. So that's an example of kind of thinking too much and then deciding that just committing to it and worrying about where I end up later.
Yeah. There's like, at least from what I've seen in like the software development community, there are these guys called idea guys or idea people or something like that. They're just the kind of guys who like run around saying, oh, I want to make this app, or I want to make this whatever, this game. And they never do it. They never make anything. And they're kind of like looked down upon. They're just kind of these guys that are all talk and no walk.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of get annoyed by people like that, at
Yeah.
least in software development. But anywhere else too, I could kind of see it. But that's good, Adam, that you're not one of them. I mean, it seems like you're kind of going against that.
Right. Yeah. I'm aware of it. I think that's what helps is idea guys need to be made aware that they're idea guys, kind of have a wake up call and realize like, oh crap, I haven't accomplished anything. I need to start getting the ball rolling.
Yeah.
So I think the good thing is that I'm aware that that's something
Yeah,
I could
true.
struggle with, and so I know to not fall into that trap. Like I'm consciously trying not to fall into that trap,
That's good.
and it helps when you're conscious about it.
Yeah, but I think people measure you based on like what they can see, what products you've made, and you don't have any of those yet. So yeah, you gotta get something. You gotta get something to show for it. Because we can't read your mind. You could tell them all you want. You realize it, but you gotta prove to them.
Well, experience is what I've produced.
That's not like tangible. I mean, you could, for all I know, you could be making that up.
True, but in at least the job field I'm in, you don't create tangible things, so there's no need to show anything tangible.
Oh yeah, okay.
I could show you the trophies that I won from coaching volleyball. That's something tangible.
Sure, okay. All right, yeah, I guess you got me there. I'm saying like, if you start a business, that's something we can use that's tangible. Or if you start a school or something.
Right, yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. But all right, trophy. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that.
You'll give me a trophy for my trophy.
Yeah. What? All right, sure, yeah. This is
Yeah,
the
Adam, you
most
should
trophy award.
Start building a new high school.
That'd be an awesome resume thing. So why do you think we should hire you? Well, I did build a school.
It's called Vista High too.
Yeah. Vista High, that's too cool.
Yeah, I built this high school, but I just can't get any students. Got a football field and everything.
Oh, man.
Oh, cool. Well, did we address all the angles of that initial question?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
we
it
could go
led
back
us
to-
it led us into where we are. But I guess I am kind of at least where my mind was when we initially talked about it was just there is definitely a lot going on in the world, and all around me, different people are saying different things that are going on. There's a lot of misinformation, and that's kind of another variable. And personally, what ends up happening to me is I just end up feeling kind of overwhelmed by it, or it's well, there's all these different conflicting pieces of information, and what good does it do me to commit to one and then being wrong? And at the end of the day, I think a lot of this stuff is just so much more stress than it's worth. But yet so many people are so heavily involved, and when you tell them that you might not know where you stand on something, they get all maybe agitated by that. So yeah, that's what led me to that question of what do you find the moral obligation to know what's going on in the world to be? So what does that make you think, Andy? What comes to your mind? And have you have you ever experienced the kind of things that I'm mentioning at all?
Not, I don't think as bad as you have it, where people get agitated.
Uh-huh.
I've never really felt like it's that like big of an issue, but I have seen it where some people will, I don't know, is the word stratify? I don't think it's stratify. It's like stratify, whatever the word is. Stigmatize. Is that the word?
Yeah. Stigmatizes.
Yeah.
Probably it.
I think I've seen people do that, but I think that's just like a social response that they think they have to do. I don't ever feel like it's coming out of like natural inherent anger or whatever. But yeah, and then once I get past that, I'm just like, well, why does it matter? Like, okay, yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter. So then we kind of just move on. So it's never really like escalated to where someone gets agitated
Yeah.
or will like stop talking to me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I guess I may have exaggerated a little bit.
Okay.
I'm kind of thinking about recently, I was talking to somebody, and I actually forget the date. Is it like the 4th of November? He's like, yeah, man, I just want November 4th to happen. And I was like, oh, yeah, what's going on then, like, in your life? And I thought it was like about his life. He's like, the election. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, of course. And he was like, well, you're going to vote, right? And I don't know. Then I just didn't want to be having that conversation at all, because that's not stuff that I, think about very much. But like, he obviously very much did. And like throughout our conversation, I realized like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I'm not paying attention to, that he is, at least. And I think I've definitely heard that other people are too. And I guess he wasn't angry at me. There were times where I think he was like, dang, you really should know about that, And that's kind of where that was one.
Did he actually say that? He said you should. He was saying you should know certain things.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
okay.
what I said to him was just like, how do I know what truth is in the first place? I mean, if you have different people telling you like the opposite thing, maybe it's about political party members or whatever, like you're hearing opposite information. How do I know what's true? And like, there's so many sources of misinformation. And I mean, he said, yeah, you should like go and like delve down and figure out which one is the true one. And I have a hard time knowing, even if I delve deep, that the source that I am getting is providing me accurate information. And then at the end of the day, it's like, if I'm being absolutely true to myself, I even find that dive to be a waste of my time. Like, and so it's like, funny. For the sake of that conversation, it's like, yeah, maybe I should do that, like morally, but nothing in my body is telling me that you have to do this. Like, I'm not intrinsically motivated to do that.
Okay. How much of what you just told us did you tell this person?
I told him everything about. I opened up the thread of I don't know what truth is.
Okay.
So I had a conversation about that. How do you know what truth is? How are you so certain about what you know to be true? And I did not. I left out the part that I'm not actually intrinsically motivated to find it out. I guess to be more polite, and to be more like sensitive, I kind of made it out that like, oh, you know what, I should know. Like, I kind of blamed myself in the context of the conversation, because I didn't want to just say like, I don't freaking care, bro, or something like that.
I think next time, try that. Just try. Because I think that will explain. I don't know where it'll go with this particular individual, but that's like the explanation I think they need to hear for them to understand why you're saying that.
Yeah.
It's probably hard for them to hear, but I mean, if they really, if they really are curious why you're saying that kind of stuff, then I think that's the answer they need to hear. You know what I mean?
I think I get it. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's definitely hard for me to do that. Because I feel like almost, if I think back to that time, I almost feel like that's a conversation like ender. Like, you know what? I just don't care. Like I feel like the conversation would just end.
You don't have to say it like that. Well, maybe you do say it like that, and I think, because I don't know how how tense it gets with the person, which maybe is, I'm kind of thinking that might have influenced it too. But yeah, if this is a normal person, they hopefully ask like, why don't you care, and how can I make you care, or what do you need to know? What do you need to understand about all this so that you can care?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know if they're gonna say that, but
yeah.
Or maybe you have to say that to them, as you say, help me understand it from your point of view, why you can be so invested in this.
Yeah. That's true.
I don't know.
I think
Try
he
that.
did give some examples,
Okay.
and I've forgotten them since, because it was like a while back, but
Oh, okay.
he did seem to believe that like his vote, or like who is in power, for example, will have an effect on his life.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so Andy, like, what do you find the moral obligation to be? Like, to know, do you think there's an amount of information in the outside world that you should know, just like morally? Like, do you feel like you should stay informed, or do you think more, or like maybe there's a spectrum or like a range of how much you should know? What do you think?
Spectrum of, wait, say the spectrum part again?
So if there is a spectrum, let's say like on one end of the spectrum, you only know only things that are relevant to your life directly. Like, okay, I have to get up tomorrow and I have to be designing this app, and I have to, do Andy Jordan lifestyle stuff.
Okay.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you're like, oh shoot, I need to be looking at all these news sources. I need to, every single time I have a question, I need to dive down the rabbit hole to understand every element of truth about every aspect of the truth of humanity and the universe.
Okay. I'm just going to say I personally don't feel morally obligated to learn things that I don't feel are relevant to my life.
Okay.
And politics being one of them. And okay, I think some people are going to say like, oh, well, you're paying taxes, you're living in whatever federal system, but I mean, are we really looking at how much taxes we're paying, where those are going? When was the last time you guys looked at that? I mean, maybe it's just me, but
I don't personally, but
yeah,
people I talk to seem to.
I just don't understand that reference, and that's maybe I should qualify that by saying that's where I stand now.
Yeah,
but I do think it's there. I actually believe we have maybe it's like morally courteous to know some of this stuff. I'll say socially courteous to know some of this stuff, but who cares about courtesy all the time?
Yeah.
So that's why I get it. I get why people would want to know it, want you to know it, but that's just not some courtesy that's important to me.
I like how you said, "Who cares about courtesy all the time?" Like, yeah, courtesy is good, but I think I've said this on this podcast before. But I always kind of reference Jordan Peterson's line, like, "In order to think, you have to risk."
Offending?
Yeah, you have to risk being offensive. Thanks, Logan.
There you go.
Like, you can't be courteous 100% of the time, and the attempt to do so is unproductive.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, it's kind of submitting to other people, I think, and that's dangerous sometimes.
Ooh, that's
is
an
very
interesting
true.
concept in itself. Like, because I believe submitting to others is a good thing to do in certain situations. Like, you know, like serving others. I think we could all agree, like, serving other people is like a morally good thing to do. But
Yeah.
like, there's a time and place for that, and if like constantly submitting yourself to other people, eventually like at what point do you cross the line of not like taking care of yourself?
Yeah. I totally relate to that concept, that it's like sometimes it feels like I have to submit to people to know these things. Or I think I worded that wrong, but it's like the only reason that I would be learning these things is really just to submit to what people are like pressuring me to do.
Yeah.
And like if I don't intrinsically want to do that, that might be worth questioning.
Yeah. Another thing I was going to say, I was reading something wherever, and they were saying just focus on what you're good at. I think at this like point in our life, just focus on what you're good at. Be really good at that. And that's what you can like bring to the world because you're so knowledgeable at that. I'm not going to go and become an expert in politics at this point. One, because I don't want to, but two, because I think that's going to take too much time for me to be useful in a conversation. So I've just kind of given up on that, that path.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I'm just going to own that and just talk about something that I'm good at.
Yeah. When did you realize this?
Realize the
That
politics thing.
When did you give up, I guess?
Pretty early on. I think in my like 19 to 20 year olds years. Maybe like 19 to 21s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think once I realized like politics is the adult version of high school drama, I was like, this is too petty for me. I'm not like, I don't care about politics. I don't know why people want me to. Like, I'm fine with other people caring about politics. That's what they want to waste their time on. But personally, like, that's just not what I'm going to waste my time with. Because politics is too petty for me to care about. And I don't think it's other people's jobs to, like, I don't know what the right word is. Like, judge me for not caring about politics? I don't know. Yeah, and this all stems back into the whole, like, is it worth it to worry about something you can't personally affect or change or help with? So it's like, I like how it ties back into that question. It's like, no, it's not worth it to worry about such things because, like, I'm not gonna be determining any of the things anyways. So it's gonna happen. Like, the milk is going to spill, so I'm not gonna cry over it.
Yeah,
that's an
you're not even
interesting
gonna get
take
ready
on
to
that.
cry.
Yeah,
What do you guys think of the argument, your vote doesn't matter? You've heard that, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know why. Yeah, what are you going to say, Ed?
Well, finish what you're going to say first so I don't cut you off. You said, I don't know
okay.
why what?
I don't know why that. I mean, it's been proven. I don't know why that just doesn't end at everyone's involvement in the process. If we know that that's true.
Yeah, Andy, that's such a good question. Like, if your vote truly doesn't matter, why are people still voting? Because obviously there's something, like, deep down they believe that their vote matters. And then you hear all this, like, pro-voting, like, telling everyone to go out and vote and use your right to vote. And it's like,
yeah.
Wait, weren't you just saying that your vote doesn't really count anyway? But so it's very hypocritical. I hate politics. But anyway, so let me explain. The whole reason why that I don't know, doohickey, that pickle even exists is in the first place is because there's two ways to measure voting that goes into an election, and it's the popular vote and the electoral vote. The one that gets the like person trying to be president into the White House to get the actual presidency is the Electoral College. And the reason why people are kind of the belief like your vote doesn't really count is because over the past, oh gosh, I forgot how many, over the past 20 years, I think. It's like over the past 20 or 30 years, there's been 4 elections where the less popular president got elected, which means the statistical way to say that is over the past 20 or 30 years, there's been 4 election years where the president with the highest, or not, what's the word for, God, why is it escaping me? What's the word for the person running for president called?
Candidate,
golly. I know it's such an easy word, but for some reason it escaped my tongue.
That's right.
The presidential candidate with the higher popular votes lost. So over the past 20 or 30 years, there's been 4 elections where the presidential candidate with the most popular votes ended up losing the election. The reason for that is because the presidential candidate that won the presidency won the electoral votes, regardless of winning the popular vote. Which is why people say your vote doesn't even matter, because how can your vote matter if the president that wins the most popular votes is losing? And so to understand that, you have to understand how the election works. So every state has 100, so in Congress, there's 100 senators and 435 congressmen, or also known as representatives, in the House of Representatives. 100 senators in the Senate. And so every state has 2 senators, regardless of that state's population. And every state has a certain amount of representatives based on the state's population. So bigger states are going to have more representatives. So California, for example, the state that we live in, has 55 representatives in the House of Representatives. And so there are 538 electors total. 100, 2 for each state, for every senator, and then based off of the House of Representatives, how they're divvied up, that's how many electors there are in each state. And then 3 electors in District of Columbia. So 100 plus 435 plus 3 from District of Columbia. That's 538 electors total. And so if you divide 538 by 2, you get 269. So in order to win the presidency, you need 270, just past the halfway mark, to become president. So a presidential candidate wants to get 270 or more electoral votes out of the 538. So that's why even though there might be more popular votes for another president, popular votes is just the net amount of votes for a single presidential candidate. Like across the entire U.S., the net amount of votes is the popular vote. When you're voting, even though you're like checking the box next to the president you're voting for, you're not actually voting for that president when that happens. So what's actually happening is you're voting for electors of your state. And so each state has a certain amount of electors. Once the amount of votes goes in, if that state wins the majority on one president, it's that many electors that go towards that electoral vote for that presidential candidate. That's why presidents do the most campaigning in states with more electors, like California, Texas, New York, Florida, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know where the other big states are. Oh, and swing states. Swing states are also popular campaigning locations, regardless of how many electors they have. Does that all make sense? Did I explain that well?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And so the whole reason people are like, well, the mentality of your vote doesn't count stems from the fact that a presidential candidate can lose the popular vote but win the electoral vote and get elected president. So that's where that idea comes from of your vote doesn't count. The reason why even then, with that mentality, people still go out and vote is because people want win the majority for the president they're voting for in their specific state. And when you win the majority in that specific state, all the electors are like, oh, there's more people in the state of California that want candidate A over candidate B, so all the electors are going to vote candidate A for the entire population of California because more people in California want candidate A over candidate B.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is kind of a dumb system. And I think everyone agrees that it's a dumb system. And people like really high up in Congress have been trying to change that system for like the past 30 or so years. And it's just really hard to amend that system. So
yeah.
Who knows where we're headed with that. But yeah, there's people have been trying to get rid of the Electoral College for a really long time.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question, Andy?
Oh, probably.
Did I lose you somewhere?
Yeah, you did. Not your fault. All I got out of that was that it doesn't matter. So I'm good.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost fun to just not vote and then see what happens.
See how upset you can make people.
That's what happened in 2016 because I was registered for a different city that I was living in at the time. So I legally couldn't vote in the city where I was living in.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't changed my registration. But I didn't want to because I was moving back eventually, which is why that whole thing happened. so I didn't vote in the 2016 election, and it was really fun just sitting
Wait,
back and.
You didn't vote in the 2016 election?
Yeah, I know. I'm a sinner. I'm a pagan.
What's the matter with you?
I'm a heathen.
Get out of this country, Adam.
I know. I'm so unpatriotic.
Yeah. They should give out stickers that say "I didn't vote," just to see like who's the heathens or the heathens.
Yeah.
You should make those stickers.
Yeah. I don't know how to give them to people because they're not going to the place, you know.
This is
Maybe.
how little I care about politics. Is I'm willing to take a poll of how many people want a certain candidate, and then whatever the majority is, I would vote the opposite way, just to kind of make it a little bit more balanced. Because maybe little Timmy isn't getting as many votes, and so just to be nice, I'll give him mine. Like in elementary school when there used to be like vote for president and vice president, secretary, and treasurer, and it's like, oh, little Joey has 0 votes, so I'm gonna vote for him because I want to be nice. That's about the extent I treat politics.
That's good.
Basically,
Yeah.
elementary school.
You like an equalizer?
Yeah, it's a nice thing to do.
There you go. Just trying to be righteous.
Yeah, gotta look out for the minority.
Yeah.
Imagine telling someone that's why you voted for whoever you voted for. See how that goes.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what everyone talks about nowadays, right? Is looking out for the minority.
Oh yeah? Oh, I guess so.
So that's all I'm doing. I'm doing what they said.
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah, that's kind of true. I actually think it's like more of take down the majority, which is kind of what you're saying. It's just different words, different wording. Like, oh, never mind. Actually, I was going to say Black Lives Matter, but that's not really attacking non-Black lives. Never mind. I don't know what I'm saying.
I guess to use your example, it'd be like, as if the Black Lives Matter movement was saying white lives don't matter. But I guess
Yeah, and they're not saying
necessarily true.
that. Yeah. I have an example of that, but I can't. I mean, I don't have it, but I saw one recently. Whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, I had people. There's been people like mad at me for not caring about the Black Lives Matter movement.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Like.
Yeah, it's not enough to say, I agree Black Lives Matter. It's like you have to express it and protest and be involved in it.
That's a good point. Like, why can't I just say, yeah, I agree that Black Lives Matter? That's the extent of my protesting.
Yeah, what do you want from me? I don't know. I hate to say it, but I think like people who protest or get involved in politics don't have anything better going on in their lives. So that's what they do. They like it, so let them do that.
Yeah.
Give them something to do, pacify them.
It's all high school drama. It's the adult politics is the adult version of high school drama.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I wanted to kind of to address like the main idea, zoom out, because I think we got stuck in politics, and that is a big one for sure. And that's kind of the one that people will kind of like guilt trip you over, and Actually, before I zoom out, I wanted to ask Andy, have you had conversations where people were trying to pressure you into, you know, this kind of stuff,
Voting?
like knowing more about
Or-
stuff, voting, you know, having like choosing a side on one issue or another?
Yeah, I mean, it's never gotten out of control, and I think like the type of people I'm around, they'll kind of give up quickly, and they'll be like, "Well, he seems to not want to, so
Yeah.
whatever." I usually tell
Okay.
people like, you know what? If you really want to, just tell me what to vote for, and you get two votes because I'll vote for you. And that usually gets people like, okay, I'm okay with that, and then they'll stop trying to convince me.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's a win for them.
But I haven't had anybody spend like 3 hours trying to be like, well, see, if you did this, then this is why, and whatever, this is the result.
Yeah. Well, what about like family?
Yeah, same thing. They'll kind of give in or give
Okay.
up after a couple. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so here's one issue that I've like thought about, and it's zooming out from politics a little bit, but it's like, for example, global warming, and I think there's a lot of other things that are like global issues that it's like, how much should you know about them? How much should you morally try to help? Like, yeah, what's your moral obligation with that kind of an issue?
It's the same answer for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I see. That's just
Yeah,
something. Or go ahead.
It's the same thing. And this one comes down, I was going to say this for the politics one, but it kind of comes down to me not being an expert in this field.
Yeah.
Global warming, whatever. I don't know anything about that. I don't research any of that. And I think I kind of just have to defer that responsibility to someone who's more qualified. And then whoever's more qualified to direct people, I'll listen to them if they tell me. Like if someone were to say, starting this year, you can't drive for like more than an hour every day or something.
Uh-huh.
When it gets to that point, then I'll start making it my responsibility.
Okay. So is it that you don't know what you can do to help? Like, you don't know on a daily basis if there are actions that you're taking that are helping or hurting the cause?
Yeah. And I don't want to spend my time trying to figure that out
Okay.
because I don't know how to do that. So, aside from all the stuff I've heard, it's like turn off lights, only water
Yeah.
on certain days. But, I'm not going to go try to like find a new source of energy, discover
True.
a new particle or whatever.
But like on the, am I using this word right? Macroscopic level? Like the level in
Sure.
which you're seeing it in your own life.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, like you did say, like turning off the lights or conserving energy in those kind of ways. Like, do you feel any kind of inclination to do those kind of things to help? Like that, or I don't know if this is to do with global warming, but like the kind of waste that you produce from like your household or whatever.
Oh, well, like landfills and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
that's like another large scale issue.
Oh man, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
This is going to get me disqualified from
Uh,
some award show, but
yeah.
yeah. No, I was going to say I do turn off lights, but that's actually because I'm trying to like lower the electricity bill. So that's why I do some of those kind of things. Or like don't drive. Or maybe I'll get a different car with a different engine so that my gas bills are lower. But it's
Yeah.
always kind of, I'm always kind of in that microscopic micro, I guess it's microscopic level of my life.
Yeah.
Maybe I think maybe it's because I know that, or I'm assuming that this only works if everybody buys into that obligation. And I don't think everyone's going to, so it's all or nothing. If they're not going to do it, I'm not going to do it.
True. Yeah. Yeah, this is like a tough one. What do you think, Adam?
Wait, can you repeat the question?
I guess, for example, if let's say we're talking about global warming, do you have any obligation to help that cause, or do you feel any kind of like moral, any way like morally that you should help with this situation, or maybe not just help, but like just live your life slightly differently so that the situation is not as bad as it could be?
I guess the short answer is no, I don't feel a moral obligation to global warming. Because, let's see. Well, there's almost 8 billion people on the planet. I am one of those 8 billion people. And all those 8 billion people are expending I guess resources and I don't know a better word than trash, like a more like
waste,
yeah, like a more
trash,
encompassing word.
garbage.
Yeah, a lot of people are expending resources and expending waste, and we have that multiplied by 8 billion people on the planet. I don't like. Yes, I would be making a difference, but on mathematical terms, the amount of difference I'm making is so mathematically small, it would be deemed negligible mathematically.
True. Yeah.
And so, I won't feel any moral obligation other than like what makes saves the most time or saves the most money for me. Kind of like what Andy was saying, like he'll turn off his lights, but not to conserve energy to save the planet, to conserve energy to
lower the bill.
To lower the bill, yeah.
Well, okay. Here's like a small example that I think of. So, yeah, maybe I should say like how I think of these things. It's like I feel like there's some kind of like I feel the same way that any action I might do is negligible on the scale of everything. But for some reason, I guess I feel this desire to try to, throughout my lifespan, try to find a way that maybe has the least like carbon footprint, as they say, or whatever. Like in a way that maybe it doesn't even decrease my quality of life very much. Like I'm not starving myself to do this, but just little things that I could do. For some reason, I guess I feel like I feel like some kind of moral pull to do that. Like, for example, like a very small thing is like, what about using a lot of like disposable plastic bottles versus just using one bottle that you could refill? Like, do you do that, Adam?
I do use a reusable water, but that's more per convenience.
Yeah.
Not because I'm aware of the environment. It's just easier to have my own water bottle that I could refill. it doesn't cost money to buy plastic bottles. So it's more of a convenient thing than or it costs money to buy plastic bottles, but it doesn't cost money to just have one and refill it. I mean, it does. I guess you have to pay for the bottle at the forefront. But once you have it, I'm not having to constantly refill my inventory of bottles. I just have the one.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think more of my decisions are financially influenced and not environmentally influenced.
That makes a lot of sense. See, I have this theory about that kind of thing. It's like, how do I put it? I tend to come from like an evolutionary like perspective on certain ideas. And my thought is that like, okay, we haven't been a global civilization for very long in terms of how long humanity has been here. Like the amount of years that we've been like global, like where we're actually all like connected now with economies and everything, where we're aware of other people and, we can just fly to another country. That's only been like a few hundred years. But for most of like humanity's lifespan, like I think we've pretty much just been in smaller communities.
Right.
So my theory is that we have evolved to care about our small community, like our pack, our family. And
I agree.
That's why I think it's so natural for us to be like, well, I'm turning off the lights because of the power bill. Why? Because the power bill affects my family. I think that we're not evolved to care about the global civilization that we are. It's more obvious for us to just think about like, oh man, my brother's not doing well. I really want to make sure he's okay, versus like this other guy in this other country is not doing well. Like that's like out of the scope that we've evolved to care about.
Right. Yeah. Humanity is a very tribal species.
Yeah, tribe is the word I was looking for.
Like we are very tribal in the way we think, in the way we bond socially, in the way we interact socially, and culturally too. Like being tribal is a concept that's found in cultures all around the world. Like there isn't a single culture that isn't tribal.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a Western idea. It's not a, like, I don't know. It's not something new. That's just where there's elements of our tribal nature in everything we do. Anything from watching sports to, joining clubs at school, to even like the whole political party system is tribal. Like here, just watch the news, and you're gonna see people on opposite sides just shouting at each other for no particular reason other than they identify with a different tribe.
Yeah, exactly.
I like your theory, Logan. I think that's a good theory.
Yeah, and I just wonder personally, like, do you think, okay, first before I even say this, like, how much do you think these things like matter, like these global issues, not like politics and stuff, but things that actually concern like the livability of this planet? Like, if it was to have global warming, or like, we produce landfills that like destroy the earth in some way, and like, what if, like, the idea is like, what if we just don't check ourselves, like we destroy the world and humans can no longer inhabit it? I've had that thought in the past, and it's like, well, maybe on some level you could say that humans don't even really matter, and like that's just the cycle of the earth. If we're gonna we're going to destroy the Earth we live in, that's not destroying the planet. It's just making it unlivable for us and making it more livable for whatever is yet to evolve. Like, that's one like train of thought I have on that.
Whoa, yeah.
Like, the Earth doesn't care.
That is a good point. The Earth doesn't care that humans are ruining the environment. Humans do.
Yeah. So, like, I care on a human level because at least I try to care about
species to survive.
Yeah, but I know that on the grand scheme of things, that might not matter. Like, the Earth is still just a mass floating through the universe.
Yeah. So one reason why I don't care about like big issues like that is because I understand how what's the word for like not quitting and like persevering? I guess
yeah.
For lack of a better word, I have a pretty good understanding of how perseverant the human spirit is at solving problems when things threaten the existence of human beings, whether it's on a microscopic level or macroscopic level. When humans are when humans are faced with problems, we have a tendency to solve those problems at whatever cost and bond together to figure out how to survive. It's ingrained in our nature. Survival is ingrained in our nature, and I've done quite some extensive research on this concept of how, like, even no matter how much you tell yourself to like not care, like, we're just trained. Everything in our brain is trained to survive. And so when problems arise that threaten survival, humans are very perseverant at figuring out and solving those problems of how to survive. And then if they don't survive, then they're no longer alive and there's nothing to worry about anyway. So we either like figure out and solve it, or we won't be around, so it won't even matter. And so because I'm aware of how perseverant the human spirit is to survive when problems arise, like, I know that things that might seem like a problem now probably won't be a problem in the future, just due to technological advancements and new discoveries that we haven't discovered yet. And we have been, during this technological and informational age, we have been on a skyrocketing exponential increase in advancement. And so I know that there are people that are very concerned with the environment right now and global warming. And yeah, like, maybe right now, if you're using today's technology and today's like measurements of how we produce waste and expend resources, like, obviously if they were to continue linearly, then yeah, like, eventually we're going to be in big trouble. But we also haven't discovered everything there is to discover. We haven't learned everything there is to learn. We haven't invented everything there is to invent. And so I think when the time comes, we'll have advanced so much where we won't even be worrying about global warming at all. The reason I believe this is because of an article that I was reading about how back in the 1850s, there were scientists saying, like, yeah, the world's going to end in like 1890 to 1900 because there's not going to be enough food to feed a population of 5 million people or 4.5 million people or whatever. I can't remember what the world population was back in the 1850s. But if you look at, environmentalists in those days and scientists in those days, they thought the world was going to end in 1890 because by their projections in the 1850s, by the time, the 1890s and 1900s hit, they would have run out of food and everyone would have starved to death. Well, obviously we're still here, so we know that didn't happen, and that's just because, the Industrial Revolution began in the 1870s, 1860s, 1870s, and technology advanced immensely. So we were able to produce food fast enough and efficient enough to where starving to death wasn't going to be a problem in the 1890s and around the turn of the century. And if you look at how much population has increased, it's a pretty steep curve. The population has increased an exponential amount, a massively exponential amount just in the past century, and we're still here.
Yeah.
So when problems arise, humans solve those problems. And so I think it's very foolish to use the same projections of the current day, project them into the future 1,000 years from now and be like, oh, look, by this date, the world's going to end because not the world's going to end, but humanity is going to die off because we're not going to have X, Y, and Z. Well, it's like, no, you're using modern day projections to assume that, but you're not taking into account the amount of things we're going to learn and the amount of things we're going to create and discover and invent that's going to prevent that. So no, I'm not scared. I also have the benefit of being a Christian, and I believe that there's a God who has a will for the human race to multiply and what's the word? Just to abound and increase in number and populate the earth. Like that's what Jesus said in Genesis was go forth and multiply. Like did I say Jesus? Did I say Genesis or Jesus? I can't remember what I said.
I thought you said Jesus.
Yeah, I meant to say Genesis, my bad.
Oh.
So in the book of Genesis, God told humans to increase and multiply and populate the earth. I believe it's God's will for humanity to keep progressing. I mean, we're his children, so we're not just going to die off of natural cause. I believe that God is going to put in place scientists and discoveries and creative people that are going to help keep the human race going. So the human race is not going to go extinct until God wants it to go extinct. That is a personal belief of mine. I know that not everyone believes in that, but my belief in God does influence those beliefs.
Yeah.
Those assertions, I should say. So, yeah, I feel no moral obligation to worry about global warming or the environment or anything to do with, or like overpopulation. I think the whole scare over overpopulation is just BS in my opinion. Again, those assertions stem from my belief in God. I don't believe in overpopulation because God told us to populate the earth. That's God's will.
Yeah.
And so I don't believe if overpopulation was a problem, God would have said something about it. He would have said, populate the earth, but make sure you don't go over this number or else the earth is going to explode. Like, no. Like, God knows what he's doing. And he made the earth to handle a lot more people than we think it can.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my answer to that question. I know I was talking for like 20 minutes there.
Yeah, I should do a TED Talk. Why I don't care, or not that, but
Why the scare of overpopulation is BS by
Yeah.
Adam Byers. Yeah, no, we need more people. We need more people to love and be loved and share
Yeah.
love with.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Well, yeah, I shared a chart to the text channel about the population growth.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, what was I gonna say? Just about like these issues, like the scale at which they are going to have to be dealt with is just, it's growing a lot. And I was gonna say that I'm gonna say that I'm not actively worried about these things. And when I say actively worried, I mean like I'm not feeling like emotionally disturbed by this on a daily basis or anything, but at the same time, I don't feel as certain that we are just like destined to solve these problems. I think I do have the thought that it is possible that these problems are going to become too large scale and we're not going to be like unified enough to be able to overcome them at a certain point. I do have hope. I'm not saying like we're destined to fail, but I'm saying I don't know in either direction. I don't feel like 100% confident that we will overcome just because we have in the past. But I do think humans are amazing and we can do a lot. But yeah, I also wanted to ask, like Andy said, like if some expert told you that you should do like this little thing differently in your day-to-day life, like do you try to do those kind of things? Adam?
Oh, I thought you were asking Andy. Sorry.
Oh no, like, well, he said that like if an expert tells him, like he'll like make a small change or something. But what about you?
I mean, I guess with current examples, like the whole coronavirus thing, once that started, like I started washing my hands more.
Okay, yeah.
So that's an example of like an expert saying something and I've implemented. Or at least I'm more conscious about how often I wash my hands. I'll put it that way. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if the amount that I wash my hands has changed. It did probably for the first month that coronavirus was a thing, but probably since then it probably flatlined back to the average amount. But I'm like conscious about when I wash my hands and everything.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say was, I don't know, it was just a thought that occurred to me, is like, I just wonder if someday, if humans will evolve, if you will, or whatever, the mindset that like somebody across the world is like their family member or something. Like, I wonder if that will ever be like in our brain in a very emotional level, like to the point where like we love our family, but we also like love these people that we don't know, and like we treat them like family. And like I wonder if that's like how we could overcome some of these things. Just wonder what that would look like, because sometimes in my mind I think about like humanity as like this huge organism or something. Like I think we've maybe even mentioned it here, but just like, you know, you have all the cells in your body work together in harmony to like make your body work, and then all the humans on the earth work in harmony to like, I don't know, make humanity work. Sometimes I think of it like in that way.
Yeah. No, I agree. I believe on a macroscopic level, the human race is an organism with a whole bunch of systems in place that work all together to progress humankind in a similar way cells do in our body. So you're identifying the fractal nature of systems in the universe
Yeah.
with that statement.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, cool. Well, Andy, are you with us?
Yeah.
So, do you have any like last thoughts on that idea about like what do you think? Do you think that humans will overcome the problems that are yet to arise and are still here, or do you think there will be a point where we can't handle at scale like the problems that face humanity?
I don't know.
Or do you just choose or does that just go back to the beginning of like, I'm not going to worry about what I'm not an expert in?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna leave that for someone better minds than mine. I will say, if I had to make a bet, I don't think we're gonna be able to handle it when we get to it.
Yeah. And what influences that bet?
Yeah, just because I don't think enough people are thinking about it for it to, like, they're not gonna have enough time to react. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm coming from too. Yeah.
I'm thinking another thing is like stubbornness with like the quality of life. I think at some point we're going to say we could either have a longer lifespan of the planet or, well, longer planet lifespan, but we have to throw away all our cell phones and turn off all the towers, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a lot of resistance, so much where we can't do what we need to. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess selfishness or self-interests are going to be the reason. That's my bet.
Yeah. I agree with that. That's kind of like why I've been talking about a lot of this. It's just like we're not naturally going to care enough to maybe change our ways on our own microscopic levels. And as the world just keeps getting bigger and bigger and more people are, naturally thinking that way, I think I might bet the same thing over a large enough time scale. But I do have hope, like in what Adam says as well. And yeah, bottom line, sounds like none of us here are actively like emotionally invested in this on a daily basis.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if someone came up to you and tried to tell you the importance of, let's just say, linear algebra. Yeah, let's just say I came up to you and was like, Logan, you have to learn linear algebra right now.
Mm-hmm.
You have to every day study. Every day you got to read a chapter of this linear algebra textbook. You think you'd do it? Would you?
I would need a good reason.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. That's the thing is, well, this is a little bit different. I'm just kind of making this up, but I mean, I think that's what a lot of people are going to ask is like, what's in it for me? Give me a reason. And I think the reason is like you use linear algebra all the time in at least game development. Yeah. Even in just like geometry, you can use linear algebra.
I mean, your brain uses linear algebra every day. Your eyes, the way your eyes work and track movement and...
Well, then I'm already an expert.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is like one thing that's important. That was one thing I was like struggling with. It was actually with like software development, like that as a science. I'm getting a little frustrated because I don't feel like people around me respect it as a science or even just as a process.
Oh.
And it might not like be relevant to them. Whereas like something like, what is it? Earth activism. Is that what it's called?
Uh-huh.
Global activism.
Maybe humanitarian or
Yeah,
something
see, like that's something that affects everyone in a way. Like, it can be relevant to everyone, but it's like, why does that get more importance in the eyes of what people want to learn more about than something like, I don't know, something like software development?
Yeah.
Or even just like math or science. Like, I don't know, I think science kind of gets, I sound like such a nerd right now, but like sciences don't have the same like interest as something like politics or global activism, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah. It might be harder to say like, hey, the future of humanity depends on you right now learning linear algebra or you learning software development.
That might be the case too. I mean, like, you could, that might be not the solution, but that could be part of the solution to this situation. I don't know.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. It's like,
right.
here's what I'll say. I think I'm a little like, I don't know, not insulted, but I'm thinking all this time that you're thinking about with this like global situation, it's like, what should I spend time on that? I think you should be spending it on how can I advance my career, or what kind of topics do I need to learn in my career so that I can be effective in changing that. And that the fact that you're not saying like linear algebra or like reading, software programming books, I think that's where you got to be. Is you got to be reading. You got to be like. Is that making sense?
I think so. Well, I guess the why isn't making enough sense at the moment.
It's like, what do you? It seems kind of wasteful to be thinking about things that aren't like. Well, I don't know. Like, what are you gonna do if, let's just say, you did want to make a change in this?
Yeah.
In this process, where are you gonna start?
Yeah, me personally. Like, the only stepping stones I have are just trying to live my life in a way that creates the smallest carbon footprint or something. That's like the only thing that I would probably reasonably do.
Oh, okay. But you're not going to go and like become I don't even know the word, whatever their activism. I think activism like covers more than that. Humanitarianism, yeah, I think.
Maybe something like that, yeah.
So you're not going to go like study that, right?
Probably not.
Okay. I think that's what I thought you were saying, was like, you should be educated on the matter. It's like, go there and then attend all these like seminars and whatnot.
Oh, I wasn't even arguing that at all.
Oh.
I was just saying, what is the moral obligation to just at least know what's going on? And then maybe just little things you can do in your own day-to-day life that can like help that problem. Like, how intrinsically motivated are you to do that?
Oh, okay.
But I think what you're saying makes a good point, though. It's like, what you are best at may be the thing that you should focus on, and then someday in the future, maybe you will create something that will be part of the solution, like in reality, rather than just sitting around and worrying about it. And
okay, yeah, I think I had a point in there somewhere, but I don't know where it went. But there you go. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like, I don't know. I'm thinking it's a waste of time to be. I think for you, just make a decision and stick to it. And I think your decision should be making yourself better to be able to contribute to the solution.
Yeah.
Not try to learn someone else's solution, unless that does make you. And that's another thing, is if you wanted to devote your life to this green earth, whatever, that's fine. Like, do that. But I don't think that's who you are. So that's why I'm not that's what I'm saying. That might not be the right thing for you.
Yeah.
I think the best way I could add input to that question, or just kind of this topic in general, is, well, what do I on this podcast? What do I always say the purpose of life is?
Learn and grow.
Learn and grow. See, Logan's got it. Good job, Logan. I'm so proud of you. Yeah, I always say the purpose of life is to learn and to grow. So if worrying about the environment is helping you as an individual learn and grow, then that's awesome. That's great. You're learning and growing through that avenue.
I don't think that's what's happening though.
For me personally, like it does not help me learn or grow. So it does not take up any of my time or energy or thoughts. And I think and I think Andy's in the same boat as that.
Yeah.
Let me kind of paint a picture real quick and see what you guys think, or like paint a mental image. Like, let's say I have a family, and in one way I could say, you know what, I actually don't care at all. I want every child of mine to own like an 8-cylinder truck that spews out smog like on a very large amount, and the only things we will use for like food are like disposable styrofoam plates and plastic forks and knives for the entire like existence of our family. Like, would that bother you guys at all? Or like, would you think on any level like, dang, I think he's kind of like exhausting his carbon footprint or something like that, versus someone who's like, you know what, I'm going to try to reuse everything that I can. I'm going to try to drive like an economical car, or maybe something that doesn't spew out as much like gas into the environment, like on a net level. Like, what do you guys think about those two situations?
Well, I wouldn't do that for my family because that would be very costly. That's the thing.
That's true.
Like, that would cost a lot of money to just have styrofoam or like paper plates, plastic utensils, and 8-cylinder trucks for our kids.
Yeah, that like every time you drive it, it just tons of black smoke comes out the back.
Like that financially, that would be a lot of gas, a lot of like going to the store to continuously buy paper plates and plastic utensils. Like there's a point where it's like it's not going to happen because it's not even financially reasonable. And so I think the question is, like, if environmentalists wanted to seriously get everyone to worry about the environment, make it cheap. Make it financially easier on people to worry about the environment. And I guarantee you, if the environmentalist community can find a way to make a living environmentally friendly or environmentally, I don't have a better word for that. To live in a way that promotes environment, make it cheaper, make it more cost efficient, and I guarantee you, that's going to be the best way to take care of the environment. Like find a way that puts companies that produces trash like out of business, and then you're no longer going to be, expending all that waste. So if I think that would do the trick. Is that easy? No, of course not. But if there's a way, that way is able to be found and someone can find it.
Yeah. But Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. I think that probably ultimately has to be the way that it happens. But like, would on a non-financial level, like, is there any kind of reaction that you have to that picture other than that? Like, maybe it was your neighbor who, because I'm pretty sure some people kind of live like this and they don't care like at all. Like,
Yes, I
like
agree
what
with
if your
that.
entire neighborhood lived like this? Like every single day you like go to work, you just see like 10 trucks that only have one person in them and they're just spewing out black smoke, and like every trash can is overflowing with like styrofoam plates and all that. Like, does it bother you on that level at all, or is it only like, well, I'm not doing that just because of money?
Yeah, that wouldn't bother me. I would be like, wow, those people are really weird because of how, like, I don't know, like how abnormal
Silly.
that is. Yeah, silly, I guess. Like, I would be like, wow, that's really weird. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't be upset. Like,
Oh.
that would not upset me. And I think that's the difference between me and a lot of like our generation is people these days will just find reasons to be upset at other people,
Yeah.
which I will never understand that, but it's kind of the society we live in.
Yeah. Dang. Well, hey, any final thoughts on that, Andy?
No,
All right.
same as Adam.
So you're out at 1900, right?
Yeah, I was just kind of saying like I don't want to start any later than 1900, but I
Oh.
could stick around a little bit longer.
All right. Well, if you guys are feeling it, I'm down to stick around a little longer too. What about you, Adam?
um I mean, it would be fun, but I would like to get dinner.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Would
All
you
right,
like
then,
to wrap it up then?
yeah,
All right. Well, let me just say thank you guys for joining me around the bonfire, and thank you to all our listeners for joining us. Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking with you guys, and we hope to, see you guys next week on the bonfire.
Around the bonfire. Yes, it has indeed been a pleasure talking with both of you.